Evolution is a week away, and it's the biggest tournament. Year-round. It's the biggest tournament every year in America, and it's recognized throughout the world as one of the biggest tournaments. And what better time to talk about tournament nerves than a week before Evolution? It's pretty common for people to think that tournament nerves are a bad thing, and I want to shake the tournament nerves. I get nervous when I play, and a lot of people that are veteran players, they'll say, "Oh, I don't get nervous anymore. It's kind of like another day in the office. I've been playing in tournaments so long that I don't get nervous anymore." Now, I've been playing games for a while now. It's been about 10 years, and I've really been studying this particular phenomenon in tournament gameplay. And I've come to a conclusion that there really isn't a smart way to completely lose tournament nerves. There are three. I categorize tournament gameplay into three mental states. The first one is general nervousness. Now, when you're nervous at a tournament, usually you're not able to perform up to your typical standard. Like maybe you can't block certain lows. Throw breaks are bad. Maybe you can't punish things correctly. You're dropping combos.
Yeah,
and
just nervous. That happens to everybody.
Yeah,
so.
Everyone knows it. I mean, everyone's experienced it. And when you're nervous like this, I mean, even though it's a mental state of mind, sometimes you'll feel it. Like you'll feel like your heart's pumping, your hands are cold, your hands are sweaty or whatever. And when you're in this state of mind, I mean, it's like impossible to win. It's very difficult. And this is the mode that you want to try and move away from. Now, the other state of mind you could be in, which is also negative, is the completely careless state of mind where you're totally not nervous at all. Now, I think that this is a bad thing because if you're completely not nervous in any way, that means that either you don't respect your opponent at all, which could cause upset. I mean, this happens very often, You don't respect your opponent in any way, and then boom, out of nowhere, big upset. Or the other reason is that you don't give a shit about the game. You entered for a game you don't play or you don't care, If you don't care, of course you're not going to be nervous. But otherwise, you're either going to be nervous or another category is you're going to be completely self-aware. Like it's this state of cognizant fear where you understand that there is a danger ahead of you, but you're not so scared that you're unable to perform. And this is, I think, what the expert veteran players like John Choi, Alex Valle, Tom Hilfiger, all the legends of fighting games, they all reach this point, and many of them at times probably don't even realize that they've reached this point. They just think, oh, I don't get nervous anymore. But what they're really doing is they're reaching this point where they're able to harness the danger that they're in, and they're able to perform above their typical capabilities. Now, I mean, give me some of your experiences on tournament, nervousness.
Well, lately I've been getting more nervous than I used to, but like back then it was more like because I was coming up and I was like, okay, here's a big name player. I just looked at him and was like, he's just another player. I have to play him. I know what he's capable of, but I'm just going to play him like he's any other player,
Right.
Still nervous, but you still have to play your match.
Yeah, definitely. One thing, I mean, I've done some research on, it's been scientifically proven that the human body has a defense mechanism. It's a natural defense mechanism that in times of danger or in times of peril, automatically you are faster, you're stronger, and your reflexes are much better. And this is a natural.
It's that adrenaline rush, man.
Yeah, it's not only the adrenaline. When you mentally realize that you're in danger, you produce faster results. You're faster in many different ways. Now, if you recall maybe some tournament matches in the past where there is like a major comeback, like someone is up, 5-6 rounds, and then all of a sudden, boom, he comes all the way back and wins, right? That kind of thing happens because when the player who's behind, they're not really quite in this mode yet. And once they realize, oh shit, I'm 1 round away from death, then they realize, okay, this is the time of peril, and they turn up the skills.
Juice.
They turn up the juice, and they don't even realize it a lot of the time. This is kind of one of those things that most people will do but they won't understand why it's happening. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the reason I bring all this shit up and all these 3 different types of mental states during tournament play is, I mean, the bottom line, you want to achieve the level where you are able to perform to your max, to 100%.
Under pressure, in a tournament.
Absolutely. And in order to achieve that, you have to
Attend tournaments.
Not only attend tournaments, but you have to attend and experience the fear several times. You have to lose to expert players and be completely scared, and you got to shit your pants and fuck up all your combos and just play like an idiot. You got to do that multiple times. Once you do that multiple times, you begin to kind of feel comfortable with your nervousness, and that's what you want. You don't want to be not nervous at all. You just want to feel comfortable with this nervousness. And what happens is, many times, let's say someone like wins a tournament, right? And then after the tournament, everyone goes up to him and they're like, "Yo, let's money match, or let's get some casuals." And everyone beats him. The guy who just won the tournament loses to a shitload of other jobbers, right? Yep. Well, the reason for that is what I'm talking about. This person who won the tournament, even if he tries his very best, is going to be unable to perform at 100% because it's not up to you. It's this natural defense that the human body has, and you can't just turn it on. You can't just be like, okay, now I want to be at 100%. It doesn't work that way. You have to be in that state of danger. You have to mentally be scared to have your reflexes at 100%, have all your punishment at 100%. And this is why there are so many players out there that are maybe not that good, but they excel in tournament. They excel big time. This is also why the opposite. There's so many players out there that completely fucking are terrible in tournament, but when you play them in casuals, they're unbeatable. I mean, I don't want to put anyone on blast, but Bronson Tran. But there are some players in the Tekken community that are just like the best players in the world. I mean, they're top tier level players, but in tournament they just fall apart. I mean, this is because of what I'm talking about. You got to be able to, instead of trying to completely lose the nerves, you got to be able to just harness them and use them to your advantage. I mean, it's the only way to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, Evo's coming up, like I said, and it's a week away, and I know this podcast is kind of late in terms of practicing up or preparing for Evo as far as mentally and all that stuff.
If you were planning to go to Evo, you've already practiced up. Now it's just like the mental thing.
Exactly.
Now it's like all your execution, all your movement, all your throw breaking, all that stuff should be down by now. And now it's just like mental preparation for the tournament.
Mentally preparing, yeah. It's so important to understand that when you're in a tournament match, you're in serious danger. You have to take it completely seriously. Even if you're playing, I've learned this the hard way, Mike, even if you're playing some total jobber idiot, you still have to respect them. I mean, I don't want to put anyone else on blast, Sukin user, but if you're playing just like, it doesn't matter who you're playing. I'm just kidding, Sukin, don't get mad. But it doesn't matter who you're playing.
That was good burn.
That was good burn. Okay, anyway, the point is, even if you know you can beat this guy, you still have to respect them. Because if you don't respect them, you're not showing enough care, and even though this guy's better than you, you can lose to him. So you have to prevent that at all costs. It's very important to try hard to understand. The key is you just understand that you're in danger. And once you understand you're in danger, you perform at 100%. And that's the conclusion, the hypothesis that I've come up with when it comes to tournament nerves. Unless you have anything else to add to that, Mike?
Well, yeah, it's kind of interesting too. I've been talking to like Suiken about like his tournament nerves, and then one thing he says is like it's kind of like the opposite, but I guess it's just like motivation to himself to get himself going in tournaments and not feel nervous or like control his nervousness.
Yeah,
he tells me that like no matter who he plays, he goes into the match thinking, who the fuck is this guy? I'm just going to fuck him up, right? I don't really care who he is. I'm just going to play him like any other player. And it's just like, I'm not going to give him too much respect. I mean, I'm going to give him some, but I'm not going to say like, oh, this guy already has me beat because this guy has this name. It's like, you can't. It feels like people today put too much emphasis on someone else's name. It's like, oh, I heard this guy beat him. I heard this guy beat
Oh yeah,
good
definitely.
Korean or something. It's like people hype themselves up too much, and they just have to play against that other player. You know?
Oh yeah, it's the Justin Wong effect. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
that's the bottom line. But you know, Sukin, what he's saying right there, that is a personal strategy. What he does to stay away from the fear. He wants to avoid the fear, and that's what he psychs himself out by saying, okay, who is this guy? This guy's a clown. I'll fuck him up, no problem. That is a personal strategy that he uses. But the bottom line is that in order to beat someone, you have to be nervous to some extent. In fact, the fact that he's coming up with that strategy in the first place shows that he's giving this guy respect, because he has to come up with a strategy to psych himself out to beat him. I mean, this is kind of like philosophical, but the bottom line is, obviously, he's showing this guy respect because he's coming up with a whole strategy to stop him. You know, I mean, it's separate from what I'm trying to say. Everyone has their own methods to calm down. You know, people have told me they do push-ups. People have, you know, people have cigarettes. I have cigarettes. I chomp on nicotine all day long at a tournament. But the point is, even though I smoke 100 cigarettes, the point is I still got to get nervous to some extent. You got to show the guys some respect. You got to treat everyone like they are a legitimate player and that, like you are in danger. Or else, I mean, you could slip. Even Justin Wong, recently at NorCal Regionals, he slipped against Andy OCR. I mean, Andy OCR brought his A game, and he's a top-level Bison player, but come on. Justin Wong, let's keep it real. This guy's got years of tournament experience. I mean, he's the shit, and proved it in the grand final. Go ahead.
Kind of in that situation, too, is that Andy OCR was the one that, you know, realizes the fear in winner's final, and then he brought his A game, because, like, he had that, he had that, you know, he had all the faster reflexes, he got all that, you know, boost from the juice, right?
There is a perfect example of two of these things going on right there. Justin Wong thought, who the fuck is Andy? Exactly. Who is this guy?
Brings it back, right?
Yeah. Who the fuck is Andy OCR? I'm not gonna care about him, right? Well, the proof is in the pudding. You know, you don't care about your opponent. You don't know who Andy OCR is. You're gonna get fucked up. It doesn't matter who you are. Justin Wong, fucking Michael Kwan, or whatever the fuck your last name is, or anyone. You know, it doesn't matter who it is. And then on the other side, Andy OCR, he's got the juices flowing. He's on his A game. He's playing against Justin Wong, and he uses that danger of Justin Wong to its full potential right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover on tournament nerves. Everyone who wants to get better at tournament, you got to enter multiple tournaments, including majors. Don't be cheap. I know it's expensive sometimes, $40, $50, whatever. Don't be a cheapskate. It's really gonna benefit your game if you're serious.
I mean, like, that experience from that tournament, like, could one day give you like a first place or second place or like a top 8 finish, and then you know, like maybe 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, you win all that money back and then some, you know, and you make a name for yourself. It's like,
definitely. And it's never, personally, it's never about the money. I mean, if you're playing in tournaments for money, you're pretty much a fool. You're not going to win that way. You have to do it for the passion of the game. You have to study the game, study tournament play. I mean, it's not gonna work. I mean, you gotta invest in your hobbies. It doesn't matter what you're fucking into. If you're into model airplanes or fucking whatever, you're gonna invest in it. And this is an investment. It's a great investment.
Even like local players and, like, you know, people from like other states, when they're like, oh, why don't you just come join our, you know, little $5 tournament? It's like, oh, I don't want to enter a tournament just to lose to this guy. It's like, oh, that guy's in the tournament, I don't want to lose to him either.
That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Yep. But it's like, but it happens. It's like people don't want to enter these tournaments because they're scared of losing, and it's like, why? It's like, who cares if you lose?
It's completely unacceptable. To me, it's completely unacceptable. I mean, it's just $5. Yeah. You know, that $5 is really, really spent well. I mean, if you're trying to get good at fighting games, the best thing you could do is enter tournaments. I mean, $5 is nothing, dude. You're getting so much experience. I would spend, I mean, when I was a kid, you know, getting older and I was just starting to enter tournaments and stuff, I didn't have a lot of money either. But the first thing I wanted to do was enter tournaments. I mean, that's all I gave a shit about. You know, I was waiting for Southern Hills to have another tournament or wherever. You know, that that was the most important thing to me. And if you want to get better in tournaments, if you want to be able to harness this like cognizant level of tournament nerves, you got to do it multiple times. I cannot stress that enough.
But also, when I think about that, it's like when people lose in tournaments, like lately I've been seeing it happen more recently. It's like a lot of these people just enter tournaments and it's like, oh, I lost, I'll get better eventually, oh, I lost. Like, they don't think about why they lost anymore. They just enter these tournaments and they expect like, oh, I should eventually win someday. It's like, it's like that's what I feel like these guys have now. It's like they don't like go home and it's like, oh man, I really lost. You know, go home and post about I really felt the loss and stuff like that.
It seems like people take what we're saying right now completely literally. Like, if you pay $5 for a tournament, that's gonna put you $5 closer to winning. Nah, that's not the case. Don't be an idiot, please. If you're gonna enter a tournament and you're gonna get the tournament experience, please don't be a fucking retard and think that it's just gonna happen. You have to really be attentive, and you have to, when you're playing, think about what happened. You got scared? Okay. You got nervous? Okay. What happened when you were nervous? Did you drop combos? Did you fuck up a punish? You know, what happened? And you got to really absorb that. I mean, it's so important to take a loss correctly and not just be like, well, whatever, that's Justin Wong. Oh, whatever.
There's a tournament next week. I can just enter that one.
Yeah, you're not gonna get better that way. You gotta really examine. I mean, study it like it's a fucking math class. You know, study it. Like, what's the problem and all that shit. It's really important.